Man, when I was a kid, I remember me and my friends used to stand outside and beatbox and rap with no microphone. And we just wanted to be like Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh and the Fat Boys and Run DMC. We was just doing it for fun. We never really thought that it would get as big as it's gotten. I'm fortunate to be like on one forefront of this, and I get to tour the world, and I've been all around the USA doing hip hop and beatboxing. On this particular tour, I left Cincinnati on April 28th and arrived in Torino, Italy on April 29th.
And I had the day off to wait for the rest of the band to arrive the next day. And I walked around Torino a bit, had a good time seeing some of the sights in the city. The next day, the rest of the band arrived, and we met in the lobby, but while we were waiting for everybody else to come down, I met Bill Evans and Mike Stern. These are two guys that played with Miles Davis 20 years ago and hadn't played together since that time. So this is a kind of a historic tour for them. They were starting their tour also in Torino. We went on to our sound check, had a good sound check. The balance sounded good, it felt good. And there were actually, since we're outside on a big public stage, there were a lot of people, just people from the city walking to and fro, going different places. And we developed a little audience. And it felt good because we knew the sound was working and we knew the music was working because they were responding as if it was an actual performance. So the next day, when we came back to do our show, before us, just before us, was an incredible legendary drummer named Roy Haynes, who had played with John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Charles Mingus, and lots of other incredible musicians. And not only did he play beautifully, but he dressed beautifully. He looked like something that his clothes were painted on him or something. So we enjoyed his set. Then we had our concert, and we had really great response from the audience. There were like 12,000 people out there. They were singing with us by the time the set was over.
Oh yes, it's beautiful. And in the back.
And that was a good night. So then the next day, the rest of the band left, and I had another day off to walk around Torino and see how I could contribute to the local economy. The way I found to do that was to buy a Torino Jazz t-shirt. So May 3rd, I left Torino, Italy, to head for Dresden, Germany. My flight was at 7:30, so I had to get up early enough to get to the airport to make a 7:30 flight. We won't talk about the ungodly hour that means I had to wake up, but I made my flight, all was good. Arrived in Dresden to meet up with SOTTO VOCE. That's Roy Nathanson and the SOTTO VOCE band. It's a whole different project from ISWHAT. And the rest of the tour was gonna be with these guys. So we arrived in Dresden and we walked around a bit and saw some of the monuments. I found something interesting about the trees. I thought the trees looked really different. And I was wondering, I had a theory that the bombing was so heavy there that it affected the the way that trees would grow. I don't know, maybe somebody can send in some research results and let me know if that makes any sense. But so later on in the day, I went by a record shop called Fat Fenders, which is really cool. These guys operate the record shop almost like the way that a record label would work. They only put stuff in the shop that they know personally, and everything is handpicked by the owners of the shop. Spent a good time there, and they got some copies of the new ISWHAT album. Later on that night, we had our sound check and our performance at a club called Tonne, T-O-N-N-E. It's the oldest jazz club in Dresden, and it predates the unification of East and West Germany. The rest of the tour would be done by bus, like a tour bus. So we would drive from Dresden all the way south to Munich, which is a long drive. So we departed around 9 a.m. and we were driving all day. Found out about halfway to Munich that we're actually not going to the city of Munich, but to a place called Feldafing, which is a suburb of Munich. And so, you know, if you know these guys from SOTTO VOCE, and Roy and Sam and Kurt and the rest of the guys in the band, then you would expect this kind of joke that constantly everybody's using puns on Feldafing. I heard a thing and I felt a thing. I saw a thing and I thought a bit, and then, yep, I felt a thing. So any kind of way that you can use Feldafing, that's what was happening for half that, that trip. So, we arrived and we found out that the Kaiser or somebody related to the regional royalty used to hang out in this area, Feldafing. And so it's kind of a posh region near Munich. Well known for, it's kind of like got a golf resort vibe to it. So the gig that we played was in or right next to a train station. You could see people coming and going to and fro the platform from the train that was coming from Munich. And we had a good concert. There was a lady sitting right in front that she seemed like she had a familiar vibe with the music, like she connected with the music beyond our performance that day, like it was not something new or foreign to her. And we talked to her afterward, and indeed, she had been a fan of different albums that Roy and people in the band have done over the years. And so we traded, actually, I gave her a CD and she gave me a book. She gave us this book of Black American slang. Really interesting things, some words that I didn't know existed. Who figured slang would be interesting enough for a lady to write a book about from Germany. So that was a good time in Feldafing. You know, I saw a few things and I did Feldafing. So we left Feldafing, Germany, and headed for Zurich, Switzerland. But Zurich is a big city that you would say it's like the New York of Switzerland. The people are really nice there. It's a clean city, and the transportation, the public transportation is really efficient. Within an hour of checking in, I checked in, dropped my luggage off, and got some help getting to this record store called Six Pack, where I sold some ISWHAT vinyl and CDs. And this store I found really special, really unique, because they sold cassettes. Most of the stuff they had in there was vinyl. They had some CDs, a lot of T-shirts, but they had a lot of signed paraphernalia from hip-hop artists like KRS-One and Rakim and the Beat Nuts and a lot of different artists that I appreciate. So I really like that record store, Six Pack. Shout out to Six Pack in Zurich. Got back to the hotel, relaxed for a while, and then we played the show at Moods. That was the name of the club, and I had been hearing about Moods for a while, so it was really good to finally get a chance to play at Moods in Zurich. From Zurich, we went to Graz, Austria. Another pretty long drive, but Graz is a nice town, small town, and it sits on a river. And the nice thing about SOTTO is that it is the hometown to a well-known booking agency that also uses this certain club as kind of a layover, a spot where people can relax. If they're on tour, they can play a concert and have the day off in this nice small town and hang out with the people of SOTTO. So that's what we were doing. The other thing that's interesting about this town is that this club, the Hermitage, had a fire last year, I think it was, and it was closed for a while. Our concert was like the comeback concert for this club. They haven't been able to have any events or concerts there for quite some time. So new owner, reopening, and SOTTO VOCE is there, and we rocked the house. Plenty of people came out. We had a really great time. It was a successful reopening. The next day, we hung out with an old friend of Roy's, old friend of the Jazz Passengers, Roy's other band. This guy named Renz, who is an artist that does contemporary art, modern art installations. And his work is really something to see. So we spent a few hours checking out his work and things that he's developing, and then we got on the road to the next destination. So the next place we had to go was Graz, Austria, from SOTTO to Graz. Now this is where we run into the drama. You can't really have a tour without any drama at all. And the drama was that there was this guy that we already had some discrepancies with in Graz. And so there was a little tension before we arrived. Everybody's wondering, or I know I was wondering, how am I gonna feel when we get there? So we get there, and this guy had broken his word. And after we did the sound check, we were sitting there at dinner with him. He's sitting right across from me, and he starts for some reason going into this thing about how the moral decay and the social decline of Austria is a result of the American influence from television and all this corporate stuff being thrown into the masses, and how, you know, kids are always updating their Facebook status with BS and they have nothing to talk about. And for this reason, because of the American influence, that's why they're getting tattoos and piercings. That's he's figured out this formula where the big mainstream influence of media and McDonald's and Facebook and all of that stuff, television, is causing reflections of counterculture. Go figure, who knew? I had no idea. So that now is at least amusing to talk about. But the concert actually, the energy was a little strange, like getting into it, but we got into it and we gave a great show and the people enjoyed it. And I feel really good. I think we couldn't go away knowing that we took one on the chin and kept rolling. The next day, we made the rest of the trip to Dudelange, Luxembourg, where they speak Luxembourgish, and they speak French and German and some other languages, I think. English, of course. Really nice people, very hospitable, and welcomed us in a grand way. And the thing that was really cool about this festival and the venue that we played was the sound. The sound was really clear. We could hear everything well. The monitors were set up in a nice way. And we had an incredible time on stage.
And you know what the funny thing is? As great as that was, there's nothing better than playing in your hometown for people that share your experiences, the ones that have shaped you as an artist. So from Torino Jazz Fest to Luxembourg, now here we are at Elements in Cincinnati, Ohio. It doesn't get any better than this.
Remember when it meant something, when it did something, hit you in your soul and get you jumping.
Them days ain't gone, it's up to you. This vibe gon' tell you what to do.
You remember when it meant something, when it did something, hit you in your soul and get you jumping.
Them days ain't gone, it's up to you. This vibe gon' tell you what to do.
And yo, y'all souls trying to find the track to the days of old and walking back. Look around in the whole world trying to ask.
Never slow it all down, spinning around too fast.
You know how it is when the dizziness
Got you trying to find
which way right is and the night is. Like a month long, you hit the light switch and the flash is gone. And with no light, the sight is gone. You find
even the most
right
might be wrong.
but to get right,